Great chiropractors and physical therapists are under constant pressure of declining insurance reimbursements and long hours. But did you know there's a way to double your profit without working more? By building a gym onto your practice, you can earn more income, stabilize your business, and be a hero to your family, patients, and team. It's a big undertaking with a huge reward. Dr. Josh Satterley has done it, changed his life, and now wants to help you do the same. Welcome to Clinic Gym Radio.
Welcome to Clinic Gym Radio, where we believe that trading time for money is for suckers, and recurring revenue will save your hide and help you live the life that you dreamt of. I am your host, Dr. Josh Satterley, and I am here with the Doctor of Copywriting, Jim Edwards. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing great, Josh. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm good. Well, I was good. Now that I get to speak to you, I'm great. So I really appreciate you being on today. Jim, sure. Where are you calling in from so that everybody can get an idea?
I am in southeastern Virginia at the very tip of the Middle Peninsula in the middle of nowhere in a county with no stoplights, and I have a shooting range in my yard.
I picture that on the Zillow listing, like 4-bedroom, 3-bath, shooting range out front, feral pigs in the back or whatever, tobacco leaves. That's what my picture of rural Virginia, but
there you go. It's not too far off. We don't have the feral pigs, but we have tons and tons of deer and we hunt right here on our own property and stuff. So it's rural. There's not a single stoplight in the entire county I live in.
I love it. Okay. So those of you who haven't heard of Jim before, partly that's because he is holed up in a rural Virginia town with no stoplights. But the other reason is, the irony here is that you're also, you're the developer of a very technical product here in a county with almost without electricity, huh?
Yeah. I tell everybody that I'm famous somewhere not here, but when I tell people, but yeah, I'm basically I've been selling online since 1997. I started selling information. I was one of the first people ever to sell an ebook online. I got written up in the New York Times and all kinds of media all over the world. And, the funny thing is that when I started selling my book, I realized that I needed to learn how to sell. And in the end, it didn't really matter what I was selling. I needed to learn how to sell whatever it was. So we started out selling ebooks. Then we started selling downloadable MP3 files. Then we were selling online video. Then we were selling webinars. We were doing all kinds of stuff. But the one recurring theme with all of it was no matter what we were selling, whether it was physical products, information, software, we had to be good at selling. Otherwise, if you didn't get good at selling, you could spend all your time creating product and you'd never make any money from it because you couldn't sell it. So that's really the theme that emerged. You called me the Doctor of Copy. I'm actually the accidental copywriting coach because I never set out to teach anybody how to create sales copy,
right?
And sell stuff. But what ended up happening was in order to sell my stuff, I had to get really, really good at it. And we've had several products that have sold multi-million dollars each. And when you're only talking about charging anywhere from $29 to $497 for something, you have to sell a buttload to make a few $1 million at the $29 mark. So that means you've got a really good sales process. So yeah. That's kind of where how I came to be here doing what we're doing.
Nice. Well, I know you because you developed a product called Funnel Scripts. So scripts like a movie script. And you can obviously give the background of that, but my interpretation of that was you kind of recognize that there's almost like an 80-20 of what human beings respond to in as far as language and syntax and whatnot. And you use that to simplify people selling their product. Am I pretty close there?
Yeah, and I think it's even more like 95-5 rather than 80-20.
All right, 97-3. I'll bump you up one.
Yeah, and that's not far off, because there's only a few things, or there are only a few things that people respond to, and there's certain language patterns that work. But ultimately, what makes people buy anything is either they're trying to solve a problem or they're trying to satisfy a desire, or both.
Okay.
That's really what it comes down to.
So we're talking to a group here, listening to this podcast. They're not, internet marketers. They're not salespeople. They're service professionals, right? But what I really like about your abilities is they're already in an environment where this person knows, likes, and trusts them. And they already have people that basically, if you're going into a chiropractor or a physical therapy office, you're waving your hands, in bright red letters saying, "I have pain." Which to you would be like a pre-qualified group of people saying that they have pain would be like your dream, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you go out on the internet and search for people. Hey, can you get them to raise their hand and say, "I have pain"? But so I think there's a huge advantage for our listeners to take that knowledge of this is somebody with pain and move them towards a goal, which would be engaging in their service, buying their products, whatever it is, right?
Right. And one of the biggest challenges that you have to overcome is people trusting you and believing what you say. And your people already have that. You've already crossed that bridge. So now it's just a question of bridging the gap between where people, the customer or the patient, or whatever you want to call them, where they think the doctor fits in their mind and where the doctor wants to be. Meaning, if we think of the chiropractor as somebody who crack the back and make you feel better. But if you want to move into other areas like supplements or
adding a gym
or whatever, that kind of stuff, you need to tie what they're already looking to you for to what you want them to do in addition to what they see you. I'm not saying it exactly right, but they already know you, like, and trust you. All you have to do is just bridge the gap to the new stuff you want them to do. And it's not that hard.
And I think a lot of people that are listening are sitting there going, "Well, I can't sell. I'm not that." And what I think you're saying, or what I hear you saying, is you're already halfway to the goal line and you just don't even know it because you have that.
Yeah. And you don't have to sell. You can let the words sell for you. I mean, there's basically the people, there's probably two or three groups of people in one of these practices. There are people who are in intense pain right now that need help. There are people who are getting ready, who are feeling better from some acute pain that they have, and they need to start planning for some sort of maintenance. And then there are people who have gone through some course of treatment and they're in pretty good shape and they just want to stay in good shape.
So an analogy might be you're selling fire extinguishers and you got a group of people where you're trying to get them to imagine what a fire's like. You got people who have a small fire going on at their house. And then you're also selling a group that, hey, I've had fires in the past. I know what they're like.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't want to have another one.
Yeah. And it's pretty easy in that situation. I mean, one group, they can imagine how bad that would be. And you're trying to help them illustrate that in their mind.
Correct.
Cool. Well, so let's go back a little bit because I know you had a long, storied history, and I have a feeling you're in rural Virginia because you're one of those guys. Your hands are registered in 9 counties, and you're wanted in 12 states. But you don't have to admit to anything here. I mean, we only have like 5 listeners, so it won't even matter. But tell me about can you give me kind of a story of when you first realized that that certain words kind of had a lot more energy in them than others?
Well, it's interesting because I actually struggled the first 4 years that we were trying to sell online. And then I realized that I needed to get really good at selling online. And that's when I launched on this whole giant journey of I wanted to learn how to write sales copy. I assumed that there were magic words that you could use, and there were people out there who could teach me how to use the magic words. And what I found out after a couple of years of really studying and seeing what was going on, that there were certain patterns that emerged and you didn't need to spend $10,000 to have somebody give you some secret book that was wrapped up in a ribbon and smelled like musty old whatever. and some of them are just, there's two main thrusts that you can use with any piece of copy. And it's one's called problem, agitate, solve. And the other is basically called big benefit payoff. So problem.
So let me pause real quick. When you say copy, some of the people listening may not know what that term means, but this is just the words that make up the description of a product in a catalog, right? Or what's on a billboard. That is the copy.
Well,
correct?
Copy, when you say sales copy, can be anything that you would send in an email, that you would put in a brochure, that you would put on a billboard, that would words that would come out of your mouth in a video.
Okay. I just want everybody to be on the same page. Yep.
Yeah, that's the words. So problem, agitate, solve is probably the most powerful and probably the most applicable to your audience, where problem, agitate, solve is just what it is. You introduce the problem, you make the problem worse, and then you solve the problem with whatever you have. So, okay, I'll just make up an example off the top of my head. So here's the problem. You've been in an accident, and if you don't get care for your back, it's going to hurt probably for the rest of your life. Now, to make matters even worse, if you get the wrong kind of care, it could injure you permanently and compound the problem of getting hit by another car. Now, the great news is that, at Edwards and Smith Chiropractic, we're experienced in dealing with catastrophic injuries to help you get back on your feet. And the better news is that not only do we help get you squared away through regular chiropractic care, but we also have a long-term maintenance program where we're going to help to strengthen your muscles and actually make you better than you were before you had the accident. So that would be an example of problem, agitate, solve, just real quick off the top of my head.
Sure. And this is no different than when a patient comes in and they're saying, hey, my back, let's use something else. My shoulder hurts. And I say, okay, does it hurt when you reach overhead? Yeah, it does. And how about picking up your kids? Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, so does it hurt when you pick up your kids? Yeah. And do you play sports? Yeah, I play baseball. How does it feel then? It really hurts. So I'm just agitating what they're already thinking, right? And really getting them to remember what it's like to hurt. Go ahead.
Yeah, to a degree, but it's more so what you want to do when you agitate from the standpoint of trying to get somebody to sell somebody something. You're trying to agitate the problem to dimensionalize it in their mind. So you might, if they're hemming and hawing like, well, does it really hurt that much? Say, okay, does it hurt when you pick up your kids? Yes. Well, I want you to think about it for a minute. Your kids aren't going to be little forever. And every day that goes by that you can't pick them up and cuddle them is one more day you'll never be able to do that, because someday they'll be too big to pick up. So we need to get that fixed.
Man, I don't have a problem, Jim, and you're getting me to start moving, looking around at my kid going, I don't want to pick him up,
That hurts. I mean, so the problem agitate is in sales is more like making it really hurt, because when you talk about the problems, people are so immune to inured to the problem that they're just used to it. So you need to draw it out and make it hurt. Not it hurts when I do this, but damn, that hurts, which means this, which means this, which means this, and holy crap, I better do something about this pretty soon.
I didn't realize this little pain in my foot might lead to knee problems, hip problems, and back problems 10 years from now.
Right. And ultimately, I'm going to end up one of those. I'm going to be totally embarrassed to even leave my house because I'm one of those stooped over people walking through the mall with one of those red walkers with an oxygen tank attached to it by age 50. Now, do you really want to deal with that?
My God, you're the Picasso of painting a picture with words here, Jim. It's amazing.
But that's what you got to do is make it hurt.
Okay.
Because you think about it, somebody gets in an accident and, okay, you're not going to be able to work out. So what happens if you just put on even just a couple extra pounds every year? Even 3 pounds, it doesn't seem like a lot, but 10 years from now, you're going to be 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight. Not only are you going to be in pain, but you're going to be obese. Your social life is going to suck. Your wife's going to leave you, cheat on you with the UPS guy. I mean, come on. Let's get this handled now.
I guess you don't worry about that in rural Virginia because there is no UPS guy willing to drive out there, right?
No, we have one, but he knows I shoot a lot and he's cool anyway.
Awesome. All right. So you identify the problem, you agitate it a little bit, and kind of look, what is that called? Future pacing, where you're kind of drawing it out. Like, what does this really mean? And a lot of people are going, well, I'm not an internet marketer. And, I'm just a physical
That has
therapist.
nothing to do with it. This is just basic human communication sales. Since some guy in Turkey 2,000 years ago tried to sell somebody a rug, since, 100 years ago when people started selling cars. I mean, it doesn't matter. Anytime.
The point I was trying to make is I think that there's a lot of clinicians that are nervous about drawing out that future. But we know, for example, like if your hip loses its ability to rotate, that's not going to be a hip problem. That's going to turn into a meniscus tear. And then when you have a meniscus tear, that's going to turn into a low back problem. And then when you have that low back problem on one side, there's a high likelihood you will have an unstable shoulder on the opposite side. We know that, but we just don't illustrate that on that initial patient visit. And what you're saying is, illustrate that whole path of why this is so important to come in for an appointment, right?
Well, and there's a couple ways you can do that. So you can do it with sales copy in a brochure. You can do it on a flyer. You can do it in an ad. And when you're one-on-one with somebody, you have them tell you what that means. So you can use what do they call that? Who was the ancient philosopher? I'm trying to think. Anyway, the Socratic method. Yeah. Just start asking them, okay, Josh, I've just shown you how your meniscus is all screwed up and that's going to end up in a tear. What do you think that's going to mean if we don't take care of that for you? How's that going to impact your life and your ability to move around? Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to. Okay. And if that happens, what do you think that's going to mean? So if you want to, it's just getting them to express meaning. So what does that mean? And what does that mean? And what does that mean? And after about 3 or 4 questions, I mean, you're going to have to practically call the suicide prevention hotline if you ask the right way, because they're going to be so freaked out.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And the other thing that, side benefit, everybody's thinking you're going to make money through sales. But the other thing that I'm sure will happen,
you'll help people.
When you say, hey, Jim, here's the exercise I need you to do, the compliance with that treatment plan is probably double or triple the amount it was if I don't show you long-term what that problem is, right?
Right. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it makes our lives easier because we all want patients that are compliant with their care, because we spend a lot of time learning about what the hell exercise to give them. And now it's frustrating when you give somebody, hey, here's your prescription, they just don't do it. So side benefit.
Exactly. And then the other one of the big benefit, then do what the hell I say is basically, the big benefit payoff. It's so if you want increased mobility, if you want more energy or whatever the big payoffs are of consistent chiropractic, more energy, better sex life, better flexibility, then this is one of the most important things you're going to do for yourself is to commit to one of these exercise programs that we have, or the gym that we have, or whatever you're trying to sell them. So you tie it to the benefits. I'll be honest with you though, in this, if ever given the chance, I would rather sell to someone who was afraid and had a problem than someone who was just trying to satisfy a desire. Everybody wants to have worked out. Nobody wants to work out. Everybody wants to have written a book. Nobody wants to write the book. All these things that people want, no one wants to go through the process of doing it. And people, especially to be convinced, the vast majority, and there are exceptions, but the vast majority of people will get pushed better when you're focusing in on a problem prevention and agitating the problem so that they're like, holy crap, I just got to do it. It's like, if you think about the Christmas story, the one with Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, they didn't say to him, if you're nice, people will really like you. So if you want people to like you and to be popular and go to parties, you really should stop being a jerk. No, they scared the crap out of him with 3 different ghosts, and he totally changed his total character. Sure. So it's just human nature to get pushed with the negative rather than pulled with the positive.
So let's talk action steps here. So if you have, I don't know, we can make a couple different scenarios, but let's say you have a chiropractor that's really looking to, I'll agitate. He's seeing 80 people a week and he's making okay money, and sprains his wrist and finds out his kid has horrible disease that's going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of time. And so now he has to double his income in 1 year. Okay. And he goes to rural Virginia, and I don't know what you do there, but he ties a message to the collar of a bloodhound and tells the bloodhound, find Jim Edwards, and he gets you to consult with him, right? Mm-hmm. What would you have him do?
Well, from the standpoint of his business or selling more people into his business or
so he's got to double his income. Let's say he's got to double his income and well,
there's two ways to double your income. You can charge twice as much and do the same amount of work. You can do twice the amount of work at the same rate, or you can keep doing what you're doing and diversify into something else. So okay. Which of those is he going to do?
So let's start out saying, hey, he's got to raise his rates. He jacked up his wrist and he can't work on as many people. So each person's going to have to bring in more money.
Okay. So
yep, go ahead.
What I would tell him to do is to figure out how to get the people he already has spending money with him to spend more money. And so you can do that either by getting him to come in for twice as many treatments or getting them to do some other kind of service like buying supplements from you or coming to your gym that you have there and you have, somebody, I don't know if you would have somebody there as a trainer or not.
Trainers, yep, absolutely.
But that, at some point, your income, especially in this type of business, is limited by your number of hours that there are in the week.
Right, because we're one-on-one treatments, we're trading time for money there, right? I can only work directly with Jim. I can't work with Jim and his 10 buddies. I get one-on-one. So we have to develop this other stream. So we have a Jim, not a JIM, a GYM.
A GYM.
Yeah.
Right.
We have that. So we add that on, and now I have to create a situation where my clients want that, right?
Right.
They're desiring that.
So what is their biggest desire? Again, you're probably going to have to segment your clients as well. So figure out what their desires are. So if you got one they just want flexibility and just to feel good and to have more energy. So it's, all the sales copy for them would be centered around more energy and feeling good. So if you want to, just throwing off the top of my head, a headline would be how to have more energy, more flexibility, and live a better life without drugs, without pain, and without more medical treatment. Again, I'm just
but I could take
pulling that out.
Yeah, that headline, I could write up a little 3-page thing that I can hand out to everybody that comes in the office, right? Or I can hand out at
or just a
trade shows.
One-pager, just a one-page flyer. I have found, seriously, especially for something like this, where you're probably, again, it depends on what your business model is, how your funnel's set up. Are you trying to close people over the phone? Are you trying to close them just with the flyer so they say yes? Are you trying to close them for a consultation, which, by the way, is probably the best way to do it in this particular situation, from my experience in sales, would be not to try to use any of the sales copy to just do the straight up close and commitment, but all of the sales copy is centered or focused on getting them to take a small action, which is to set up an appointment to meet with someone about it. And then you close them in person.
Right. But most offices are already set up for that. So once again, we're closer to the goal line than we think.
Oh yeah.
So if I have this little one-sheeter that says how to live a life of, high energy, be more mobile, and feel great every day without
drugs or whatever the other stuff is they're afraid they're going to have to do, without drugs or pain.
All right. So if I want to do this low tech, I could, if I was in rural Virginia, I'd carve this into the side of a log, right? Like Jim loves Betty. And then next to that, it's going to take a while with my knife to carve that out. But if I was in a town with photocopiers, I would
actually use an old bobcat hide with some charcoal and draw that out on there. But
and then you look at the guy that's dating your daughter, and you take the charcoal and start drawing lines on your face and tell him it's time to prepare for war.
Nah, just tell him don't do anything you do to my daughter, I get to do to you.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good line.
That is. It scares them. So, and I have 2 daughters. So then, I mean, basically this is something you could test with making up whatever you need in Word and printing a few off on your laser copier, handing them out to all the people who come in to your practice over the next week, or if you're at a trade show or giving a talk at the Rotary or something like that, and then just measure the results that you get. It's not high tech, but it can work really well.
Right. So there's that speed. Just start testing, right? Which is be okay with the idea this might fall on its face, but we're just going to test it.
Are you a chiropractor or physical therapist working long hours, worrying about lower repayments and missing out on quality time with your family? You can double your income without working more hours by adding a gym to your practice. Clinic Gym Hybrid Solutions has a step-by-step guide that dramatically simplifies and speeds up the addition of a fitness center and its monthly recurring revenue. In just 6 months, you can be on your way to freedom. Visit clinicgymhybrid.com today for a free downloadable PDF and complimentary consultation to get you started. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.
Obviously, we're talking about a very low-tech solution. You work in the world of quote-unquote high-tech, right? We do this with a software because we can get it out to more people at a high rate and change it on the fly, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We're going to get to that in a second. But so I test this. Here's how to live the life of energy, blah, blah, blah. And in that one sheeter, I'm trying to also agitate what that future looks like, right?
Okay.
Is that correct? Following your method? Okay.
Well, yes. I mean, it could be, here's I mean, it depends on what you're trying to sell. But if you're trying to sell them into the chiropractic gym, I would use the problem, agitate, solve, just a few sentences. Here's the problem. You need to work out, but for whatever reason, you're not doing it or not doing it consistently. There are a lot of reasons why people don't do it. You don't have time. You don't have access to equipment. But if you don't start working out consistently, then here's what's going to happen. You're going to have weight gain. You're going to have however a doctor would say it, increased joint pain. And to make matters worse, if you just go down and join the Y, and even if you hire a trainer who's probably some kid that failed out of college, do you know if you're doing the exercises the right way, especially in light of the fact that we've spent all this time getting your back and your joints and everything in place? The good news is here at, Dr. Satterley's new gym. We're going to teach you not only the right way to exercise for you, but we're going to do it in a holistic way that's going to keep you from hurting yourself or reversing all the good treatment options or all the treatment that we've done for you. And that would be the angle that I would take. And then I would list off, we're open from X to X, so it's convenient for your time. We have on-site staff to help you and explain any and all exercises. We'll help you develop a diet plan and also a exercise routine that's right for you. So I'd list off 3 or 4 bullets of the big payoffs for them. And what you're going to do and what it means for them. And there's a really good formula for that. And it's called feature, benefit, meaning. So whatever the feature is what it is. The benefit is what it does for them. And the meaning is what it means to them. And that's how you can make really compelling sales copy really quickly. So the feature is we have convenient hours. So convenient hours open 9 to 9. So the benefit for you is it fits your schedule, which means you'll never be locked out of the gym or unable to exercise. So the feature is we've got on-site staff. The benefit of that is that you never have to question about how to use a machine or do an exercise, which means you will never have to take a chance of accidentally injuring yourself or reversing the progress you've made in our practice. So using that feature, benefit, meaning, most people just do features. Hey, we're open from 9 to 9. We got on-site staff. We got all the latest equipment. And then better marketers will say, okay, feature, then the benefit. But people who really understand what makes people buy do the feature, benefit, meaning, because the meaning is actually, people are buying because of the meaning. They're buying because they know, okay, I'm not going to get I'm not going to not work out. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not going to gain weight. I'm going to lose weight and stay in shape. So those are the meanings. You gotta tie the meaning to the feature that you offer.
Right. And take them again. It's so why do we, I don't know. I'm trying to think of one in our world. So we teach every one of our clients foam rolling. That's the feature so that they feel their joints are loose and they feel like they're more mobile. That's the benefit, right? And then so that means you won't re-injure yourself.
Which means you'll feel great.
Cool. Which means you'll feel great. Yeah.
Yeah. You won't have nagging pain after you work out.
Okay. Fantastic. So I could just have that one sheeter that writes that out, and then all I'm going for is that consultation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Super easy. Now, if I was really high tech and I wanted to kind of up my game, let's talk about introducing some technology. So you're a big fan of ClickFunnels, which is a software that people can purchase on a monthly fee, right?
Yes.
And you developed a product that kind of takes ClickFunnels and what's the big, well, here you go. What's the feature benefit meaning of the product that you kind of came up with?
Well, basically anybody who's used a computer knows how to fill out a form. And if you understand your customers or your patients, what we have done is we have turned the creation of sales copy into 4 easy steps. You fill out a form, you click a button, you copy and paste, and the 4th step is you're just good to go. Because all you have to do is take the stuff out of your head, stick it into our proven sales copy formulas, and it spits out everything you need from emails to headlines to bullets to complete sales letters, video sales letters, case studies, anything you can think of that you would need to do. You got
Facebook ads now, right?
Copy. Oh yeah, we got Facebook ads. If you wanted to sell something on Amazon, I mean, if you want to create a complete webinar, sales presentation, all that stuff.
So the big problem here that I think a lot of people run into is they're like, I know I need to write a brochure. I know I need to write a Facebook ad. I know I need to write these things. And they're staring with the cursor, blinking. Fast forward 45 minutes, blinking, right? They haven't produced anything, and therefore they're no closer to their goal. So your product does 2 things, it sounds like, in my mind. Number one, you actually produce so you can get your stuff out there, bringing in clients, but it also guides them, right? It's essentially asking them the right questions to get the sentence or the message that we want. Correct. That our customer will respond to. Yeah.
It helps you create the first draft of anything that you need to create. And unlike other traditional copywriting training stuff where people train you, try to teach you the mindset and teach you how to write the sales copy, our software and process skips all that BS, and it just asks you questions about you, your service, and your customer. You fill in the blank and you whack the button, and it automatically applies all of that stuff out of your head into those formulas and gives you the result.
So it also protects us against ourselves, because as trained clinicians, we may get a little too technical with the language that doesn't help bring in anybody, right?
Correct.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And can you tell people what the name of your product is so that they know it?
It is called Funnel Scripts, and we actually have a free training that'll teach you all about sales copy and how Funnel Scripts works at funnelscripts.com.
Okay, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So with that, what I think one of the ways that people they underestimate what it can do is it's the speed at which you can put your message out there is as important as the message itself sometimes. Would you agree?
Yes, I would say most people, and I think you'll run into this, especially with more professional groups like doctors and lawyers and engineers, is they tend to overanalyze, but that's the thing is you're supposed to analyze carefully because you're dealing with people's health, their money, their legal stuff.
Sure.
But when we're talking about marketing, you need to be able to put out your flyers, put out your messages quickly so you can see what's going to work, because just the way it works, a lot of times the things that you think are going to work bomb, and the things that you would never dream work end up being the things that put an extra 6 figures in your pocket for the year. So the key is to try a whole bunch of different stuff. And I personally know a chiropractor that every single month he's testing a different offer in his practice and in the newspaper and speaking to various local groups and stuff. And he ties it to the time of year. He ties it to specific injuries and stuff like that. But every single month he's doing it. He's using these tools to be able to come up with, because he wouldn't be able to come up with these offers and all this stuff if he was just doing it on his own, because he's too busy seeing patients. But the key is to try a whole bunch of different stuff to see what resonates with your clientele, with the time of the year and with your practice and what your actual offering is.
Yeah, I had an experience a couple of years ago where we put on this workshop all about hip flexibility and whatnot. And I had my 4 big bullet points I was covering, and our trainers were working with everybody. And, afterwards we got a lot of high fives and everything. But nobody really came in. And I was like, what the heck? Like we did a great job. We educated, we did this. The only 2 people that came in both said the same thing, which was, I loved how you explained exactly how the whole body works. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we were only talking about the hip. And they're like, no, that thing where you explain the entire body. Now, for anybody that's taken like the functional movement systems, we were talking about what's called the joint by joint approach, the mobile, stable, mobile, stable, mobile, stable. It was just a small concept that I happened to speak about in one sentence of that entire presentation. But for whatever reason, and I would not have bet on this at the beginning, for whatever reason, every person in there connected with that idea. And they were just like, wow, that makes sense. Now, if I had bet money on which the message would have closed them, I would be totally wrong. But luckily, I had these customers come forward and say, that part makes sense to me. And so from then on out, we just use that all the time in explaining things, because it was the customers that told us, hey, that makes sense,
Right.
Yeah. And luckily I had mentioned it, and luckily I got a couple of people. But what you've done is taken all the feedback and said, here are the sentences, again, to that 90-10 rule, 95-5. Here are the sentences that most people, whether they're coming in for a chiropractor or going to the beauty counter at Nordstrom's or buying a car, here's the sentence that most people respond to, or here's the language that most people respond to, right?
Correct. Yeah, the patterns. It's not necessarily specific sentences, rather it's patterns of speech, patterns of communication that are centered around either problems or desires that just naturally lead people to make a buying decision.
So imagine that there was 2 people who were trying to get their message across, and one repeated a certain sentence and even had hats embroidered with that sentence. And they were both running for a very high position in our country. One person figured out how to get a message across to people, and the other person didn't win, right?
Yeah, and the one person, if you really want to, if you want to break it down, anyway, I don't want to get overly analytical.
This isn't
but one
it's not
person,
a political discussion, but
right. But one person's message actually created a stronger mental image than the other one. If you really want to break it down,
right.
Make America Great Again created a much brighter, clearer mental image than Stronger Together.
Right. Stronger Together was just, hey, we're going to be at church in the Kumbaya circle, but Make America Great Again gave those people that were interested in that the picture of what it could be.
Right. And ultimately, that's what sales copy is. You want to create a picture in the mind of your prospect or your potential patient, whoever you're trying to get to spend money with you, to create a picture in their mind of themselves getting what they want, getting rid of the pain, and seeing you and your product as or service or software or whatever, as the method by which they are going to do that.
Right.
That's the ultimate objective. So
your service is called Funnel Scripts, and it works perfectly with ClickFunnels. And the reason that, one of the reasons I'm such a fan of that is it's once you learn both those, it's so fast to just talk about anything. So a doctor who is, those of you who are clinicians, and it's like, you got to do something because you want to capture people at the upcoming, rural Virginia 10K and shooting competition, right? you can put up a web page very easily talking about, hey, if you're getting ready for this 10K and you have any pain, we can help you, right? And the scripts that you provide can help me populate the words, which are, to me, that's the hardest part.
Yep.
Yeah. So with those two tools, I could literally go to a Starbucks. I don't know if you guys have Starbucks in your town, Jim, but I could
30
go to,
miles away.
I could go to a Starbucks for 4 hours on a Saturday and start to finish have a funnel or a method of bringing in new patients that I'm testing, seeing how it's working and tweaking the language, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm saying 4 hours. It might even be less than that, you think?
Yeah. I mean, once you get this stuff down, I mean, it's hour or two just to be able to do something. Yeah.
And so your chiropractor buddy, you said that is also doing this with all the things in his office, right? He changed the offer every month, but then probably pumps out some funnel scripts to kind of realize what is the wording that would work well in all of his messaging.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredibly powerful. So, well, I think this is great. So any advice for our clients who are trying to grow and trying to, what does Big Daddy Jim have? What's your sage advice for people who are trying to grow their business, whether or not it's a clinic or anything, but what would you say to them is the best way to do that?
That you don't get on your high horse about the fact that you don't sell, because all of us that own a business are salespeople and marketers who happen to sell whatever business we're in. So if you are a chiropractor, you are actually a marketer / salesperson who sells a chiropractic service. Mm-hmm. And if you think of that distastefully, or you think of yourself above that, or that's what I'm not good at, or whatever negative attitude you might have towards it, you're not hurting anybody but yourself. Because the people who make the most money in this world are the people who know how to sell. It doesn't matter what they're selling. They understand the principles of salesmanship in print, on the web, in person. And so you've got to get good at that. The good news, though, is that there are a lot of tools like ClickFunnels and funnel scripts out there that can really short circuit the process and make it super easy for you to do it. So you have to understand it's not something you have to learn from scratch. Use tools, but understand that it is definitely something you must get good at if you want to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there are certain things within treatments that you're like, you have to know a base level of X to get your patients better. And what you're saying is to get your business better in a way is you have to have a base level of understanding that people respond to something. And when they respond, selling them is nothing more than just making sure they're aware that your solution is the best solution.
Sure. And just like you would use certain language patterns to get people to understand their diagnosis and the course of treatment that you want to do for them, and you generally know they'll be accepting of that, it's the exact same thing with sales. It's just knowing the language patterns so that you'll resonate with people, they'll trust you, and they'll do what you say.
Fantastic. Well, Jim, I really appreciate you coming on with us today. I know you got to get back out to deer hunting and coon skinning, or whatever it is that you do in Virginia. But seriously, hey, I'm talking about the hats, man. The hats that you make with the
I hear you.
In all seriousness, how can people get a hold of you if they have more questions, they want to look at what you're offering here with Funnel Scripts? How can they find you?
I think the best thing to do is just go check out funnelscripts.com. We've got a really cool training on there that will really help you understand the basics of sales copy, and it'll show you how Funnel Scripts works. And that's your best first start.
Right.
Place.
And I think it'll help get everybody on board for why this is so important. And, the speed at which Funnel Scripts can do it, it's one more thing you don't have to deal with. It's like hiring a cleaning service. A place has to be clean for your customers. You don't have to clean it. You just pay them. So, all right, fantastic. So Jim Edwards with Funnel Scripts. Thank you so much, Jim. And I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Clinic Gym Radio. If you're ready to double your profit without working longer hours, please visit clinicgymhybrid.com and find out how easy it is to get started on your path to freedom. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.